Hello, all. Hope you're well on this Friday, April the 17th. I don't think it's Easter Friday anymore, but nobody really knows. Welcome to Ask James. Hope we're all well, keeping safe, etc. So, those who might be new into the chat, the way this works essentially is if you don't ask things in the chat, this lasts about 2 minutes. We don't get very far. My name's James, one half of the Planet FPL podcast. And I want to talk about football as I normally do with you on a Friday afternoon. So get your questions in, anything you like. Let's talk football. I see our friend. Yes, if I set the chat up in advance like I did today, then yes, by all means, you can get your questions in advance. I intentionally did that, hoping there'd be a ton of questions, and there's not. Shit happens. He goes on to say, what are your thoughts on player contracts that end June 30th? How do you think clubs will manage this? Well, there's a suspicion amongst Premier League clubs at the moment that they want to set a deadline of June 30th. Me and Suj said this on one of the pods earlier in the week. I think it might have even been yesterday's when I was talking about the Ajax team from 95, saying that there's a lot of Premier League clubs who want to set a deadline of June 30th to complete the Premier League season. Need to get their head out of the sand if that's what they think. So they've got absolutely no chance of that happening. Absolutely none. I'd be astonished if we're sitting here on June the 30th and the football season is finished. Can't see it happening. There's certain other clubs in Europe who are looking at, I think it might have been France I saw, we're looking at like June 28th as earliest to play football again. It's only across the water, France. So I don't really know what they're thinking. Looks like Italy and Germany might be the furthest ahead and the closest to returning football, which that's a surprising scenario in Italy because of obviously they've had such a crisis over there. In terms of the contracts, it's one of the reasons obviously they want this June 30th deadline in place. But my understanding is that UEFA, FIFA, etc., are trying to put practicalities in place so contracts can be extended. Now, in the Premier League, this is easier said than done rather than in the lower leagues. We've used the example of Ryan Fraser, for example, at Bournemouth, whose contract runs out on June 30th. And for him as a footballer on his wages and for Bournemouth's requirements of trying to stay as a Premier League club, should the season go into July or August, which is likely, then I think it's in everybody's benefit in that circumstance to give Fraser a rolling extra month, 6 weeks contract, etc. Lower down the pyramid, that's a lot more difficult. And I think integrity-wise, one of the issues you're going to find is for every case where there's a Bournemouth who will want to play the player to keep them in because the financial reward of staying in the Premier League is huge, you'll get plenty of other clubs, and particularly lower down the leagues, who are mid-table, got no chance of playoffs, no chance of relegation. You're just going to go, off you go. We could do without the finance cost over the next 6 to 8 weeks or so, and we'll play youth players, etc., if necessary. That's the issue. So I think one of the fears in the National League, when we did that podcast, for example, was a lot of contracts out in 13 days. So April the 30th is a lot of contracts in the non-league. There's going to be no football there beforehand. So I think the example was the Boreham Wood chairman was saying that, like, come April 30th, they've got like 6 players left. So how can they even begin to try and think they're going to finish the football season? So I don't really know what's going to happen. I think once we've got locked in dates, then we can think about the practicality, because there is going to be a period. What people are getting as well is players are going to need quite a substantial period of training time before they play football again. It's not going to be a case, for example, where we come out of lockdown and then Premier League matches are happening the next week. That's not going to be the case. So the players have been screaming saying we will need at least 3 weeks training to get fitness back up and stuff. That's what the players want. And the players got to into it. So that's going to have a real knock-on effect in terms of completion. But once we get back to a stage where we're training again, then I think we can look into what we're going to do with contracts, etc. Until that time, I don't really know if we can particularly go anywhere with it, to be very honest. So, like so many things at the moment, it's going to be a watch and wait. Our friend FPL Badger Norwich correspondents in the chat, they're talking to each other. Badger's soldiering on. Mark, keep your chin up, pal. Willie Back says, not too bad. At work in the office today, hoping to get gone soon. Mark says, James, have you seen the Sunderland documentary? Just finished it. No, I haven't. It's on Netflix, isn't it? I haven't got Netflix. I've got no time for television. I've got the old Amazon Prime and that free from wherever the TV set up. So that was handy when the Premier League games were on Amazon. No, I haven't seen it. I will try and catch up with Tom, Nick and Stag's podcast, Who Got the Assist, because I know that they're covering off that documentary. So they are the best guys to give their shared opinion on that. Nick Griffith is in the chat this afternoon, James. Angus McPhail says, given that the SPFL vote that Dundee knew they were the deciding vote and then changed their vote, do you think that opens up the result up to a legal challenge, particularly from Partick or Stranraer? Yes, I do. I know there's clubs who you mentioned there have been forced into relegation, I believe. The problem is, can they afford the legal costs? Like, can they afford the legal costs to then challenge it and then lose it, etc.? That's something that might not be taken into consideration too much at the moment. But yeah, it's a can of worms. I saw Stephen Gerrard on the TV saying that somebody needs to assess it and see what's gone on there, because when we spoke about it on Monday's podcast, one of the things I said to Suj is, like, doesn't smell right. Something there just doesn't feel right in terms of what's happening there. I suspect there's a lot of lobbying in terms of, and look, there will be some clubs there who've got some money, let's be honest. It wouldn't be a surprise to me if Dundee had held the vote, knowing that financial offers may be made by others to vote the way they wanted, for example. Let's not pretend and be foresighted to think that that might not have happened. I'm not saying it did, and I'm not accusing anyone, but it could have happened. Like, I think we know that sort of thing happened for the World Cup votes in Russia and Qatar, an example. Again, I'm not saying it did, but I'm suggesting that it might have happened, where money may well have been transferred for deciding votes. We know there's a lot of lobbying for those sort of things. It's interesting, before I did the Euro 96 quiz on Wednesday, I was reading up about some stuff from the tournament. England's, I'm not saying that any money was transferred then, but England pulled out of the running to vote for World Cup 98, gain all the support from other UEFA members to vote for them for Euro 96, to then in turn vote for France in 1998. So don't be surprised if something political has been happening behind the scenes. Yes, I absolutely think there is the possibility of a challenge there. I don't think we've heard the last of what happens. What's important for those who are perhaps not in the loop is the SPFL now have the power to void the Scottish Premier League season, which would effectively make Celtic champions and relegate Hearts. The chairwoman of Hearts is trying to put together something to challenge basically making the Scottish Premier League bigger. Now, I'd said, I think on this very stream last week, that I don't understand why Scotland doesn't have 18 or 20 team leagues and why expansion couldn't be a possibility. However, the young lady who's fronting the campaign and is chairwoman for Hearts, obviously she wants an extended Premier League because she doesn't want her football club to get relegated. It's absolutely obvious. And the desperation for all those clubs is to keep their minimum of 3 games with old firm teams next season. Scottish football's in a bad place. Scottish football's been in a bad place for a very, very long time domestically. As I've said previously, Rangers and Celtic would leave that in a heartbeat if they could. They don't want to be there. I truly believe that if that offer ever came from the Premier League, which the Premier League doesn't leave, they wouldn't think twice about ditching Scottish football. The problem is the other clubs just haven't got any power or resource to try and compete. And actually, I think when we look at some clubs are probably going to go, unfortunately, during this crisis, it could be that a few Scottish clubs go first, unfortunately. FPL Badgers saying Scotland fascinates me. Don't think Partick have the funds to challenge, unfortunately. This is kind of what I've said. Really can't see the Prem teams voting for a large restructure, so think Hearts are doomed also. There you go. Sums it up. Paul Coleman, afternoon, big man, you well? I'm good, thank you, Paul. Yeah, no complaints. Family's well. I'm well. Thanks for everybody who keeps sending me messages asking about Harry's. Absolutely fine. Like, I don't know, 3 weeks or so since he showed any symptoms of badness or whatever. He's absolutely fine. And I'm good as well. Nobody's ever called me big man before, Paul, so cheers, mate. You also says, Paul, how did we all do on CMFPL, virtual FPL? CMFPL, I had my worst week to date, which I kind of knew I was going to have, having taken a very risky -8. I finished on a net 53. I haven't seen what the overall rank is as yet. Virtual FPL, I'm not playing. I have no interest in playing. Not against anybody else, obviously partaking in that. But it just feels a bit auto-y to me, computer-based, etc. Which obviously the Champ Man game is, but all the interaction that you're getting from the community, you know, with the stuff like Rob Pick at the Scout, he's putting out tweets in terms of league team news and stuff. It just feels like a whole community of people interacting. Obviously, Chris, FPL Captain with a K, coming and helped with the graphics for the live stream, which we're going to try and do again tomorrow. So it's like everybody's involved from the community getting in, and what you got on virtual FPL is, here's what happened. So, yeah, there's no involvement or interaction or enjoyment and that. I see that they're trying to push that to be like daily now. So I don't know, game week 2's tomorrow, game week 3 Sunday. They're doing it at 8 o'clock. I noticed they left Wednesday nights out. They get a thumbs up for that as well. Leave me to my stream Wednesday nights. Thank you very much. Heavy Finger 7. Hey James, much appreciated you hanging out with us quarantine style. Yeah, I'll do this every Friday while there's enough people in having a chat. That if the questions in the chat is there, even if it's just a handful of you, I will keep doing this on a Friday as well, and I will put this out as an audio as well if it comes out okay. FPL Badger says 67 for me. I presume that's in Champ Man FPL there from Mark. Waiting for league top update to see how I fared. Hopefully above average. Thank you, Willie Bat. No problems. Thanks for the question. Paul Coleman, thoughts on Newcastle takeover? Me and Suj already had quite a long chat about this off camera yesterday, because Newcastle United is certainly going to be the main theme of whatever we decide to do with Monday night's podcast. So on the main podcast at the moment, what we've been doing is inviting people to fire in their questions, anything they like, basically. And as long as there's nothing in the weekend that changes the football landscape in terms of what our expectations are. We know there's a Premier League meeting today, I believe, at some point, but we're not expecting any big news from it. Then Newcastle United will be the main focus of our main podcast on Monday night. Suj is going to look into the details, only Suj can, and try and find out what he can find out about these Saudi Arabian guys. I know there was an article today, I think, by Martin Samuel, which has concerned a lot of Newcastle fans in terms of how rushed this deal has been, etc. I think Mike Ashley's panicked and taken less money than he wanted to just get rid of it, basically, in this crisis. My understanding is, in short, these guys are incredibly powerful. They have the potential to take Newcastle United to where Newcastle United fans believe they should be, and that is challenging for Champions League places and more. You're not going to get an overnight switch like you got, say, with Manchester City in the late noughties and the early teens because of things like FFP, etc. However, because of what's happening, we may find that there are some FFP loopholes over the next couple of years that could be exploited, and the timing for Newcastle United could be amazing. For those at the top, they should fear them. They should fear Newcastle in the coming years. And it's a major blow for those, in my opinion, who are trying to continually push towards that top 6. So Everton, Leicester, it's a blow for them. Obviously, Leicester are doing great at the moment, but that squad won't always be there together. They don't have the long-term power of the other clubs with the resources to support, etc. I'm not saying they can't stay there, but it will be tough for them. Everton are obviously constantly on the edge of trying to push that. And you got the likes of West Ham, who genuinely, I believe, longer term, 10 years or so from now, might have the capability to begin to start pushing towards this sort of thing. And there are other clubs as well, Wolves, etc. Newcastle could be very powerful. We're going to be talking about it in detail on Monday. FPL Willie back says, shit, James drinks water. Or is that gin? It's vodka, mate, isn't it? It's vodka neat. No, it's water. I tend to only drink water at home. I never drink beer at home. I've only been drinking beers at home while I've been doing the Champman FPL live streams, because I just think relaxes me a bit more and we have a little bit more of a laugh. Otherwise, I don't drink at home. I need to be reassessing that at the moment. I'm not exactly going out and drinking. Paul Coleman saying Champman is way better than Virtual FPL. I'm going to be honest, I completely agree. I've obviously got a biased opinion on that, being heavily involved, not in the game, but obviously within the Champman FPL community. And it's kind of what Woody Back says there in the comments there as well. Going back to CMFPL, the interaction is what makes this game so enjoyable. Jeff Holt is in the chat, says, hey, James. Hello, Jeff. I got to speak to Jeff properly for the first time last night. I joined the FPL Wildcats quiz night, which was an absolute blast. And Jeff was the quiz master. I highly recommend going and having, if you've got a bored 2 hours, go and get on that. It's good fun. It's half football quiz, half other things quiz. But I'm in there and I do my best to ruin the Wildcats night. It was good fun. It was a really good laugh, and Jeff did brilliant with the quiz. Great. Jonathan Nagy, Spurs played Bolton away this week in CMFPL. What was the actual score that season and who scored for Spurs? I think it was 1-1. I think Everson scored. Let us know, John. That sounds about right to me. Joe Finney Better. Hi, James. Your favourite and least favourite World Cup tournament? That's a good question. Got to be honest, the last tournament was fantastic. I didn't have high hopes for that tournament in Russia. If I try and remove England, I think France 98 was great. I think Germany 06 and Russia 18. I think those were probably the best ones. I don't know if it's bias and coincidence there that those tournaments are all held in Europe. I think the worst, unfortunately, was the South Africa tournament. I don't think it was for any fault of South Africa or Africa as a continent. Built some amazing stadiums. I think people were well looked after. The atmospheres were lively, although obviously the Vuvuzelas did piss the majority of people off. But the big thing for me, I couldn't watch a game of football without thinking about that fucking Jabulani ball. It was ridiculous. It was like a beach ball. And it ruined games. You know, there were some great goals scored at that tournament. A couple, like, for example, Diego Forlan got. Diego Forlan was one of the few players that seemed to work out how to use his thing from distance. But you didn't, when you slammed the thing, you didn't really know what was going to happen with it. And I don't think Forlan knew. He's like, I'm going to smash this. What happens? You used to see, like, I don't want to get into it. That football ruined that tournament for me. It was just stuck in my brain all the time that they were playing with a fucking beach ball, basically. Angus McPhail says, on the subject of watching football content, have you watched the Maradona doc? I finally watched it this week and really enjoyed it. It is sitting on the planner, Angus. The wife actually wants to watch it as well, believe it or not. So we need to find a couple of hours where we can watch it. But that is very much on the agenda, Angus, and I certainly will get around to watching that one. Heavy Finger 7 says, how would a new money powerhouse in Newcastle affect Spurs ownership in the decision to be open to new investors or even sell outright? Well, one of the things is that the cost for Spurs will be very different to the cost of what he's paid, the cost to get Newcastle, for example. So the transaction for Newcastle is somewhere, I certainly don't know the accurate numbers, but between sort of 350 million pounds, which I think is an amazing price in the current climate, by the way, because Spurs will not go for less than £1 billion. I'm absolutely certain of that. With the stadium, the London, the assets in the club, the assets in the training ground, all the things that are associated with Tottenham Hotspur at the moment make them, and this is going to upset some people, currently a far bigger football club than Newcastle United. Tottenham are placed to be one of the biggest clubs in the world. Newcastle are about to put themselves in a position to try and become one of the top 6 in England. It feels like a small difference. It's gargantuan at the moment in terms of assets and value. Not necessarily on the pitch, but assets and value. So if Spurs were to be sold, I really don't believe Spurs would go for less than £1 billion. I think if Manchester United went tomorrow, you're potentially talking in excess of 2 billion. Huge, huge numbers. I genuinely believe that. So it would be a very different process. It would need a similar size investment, I think. You know, nobody's just got £1 billion knocking about in their back pocket. It probably would need Qataris, Saudis, Chinese, whatever, to get involved to make that kind of thing happen. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs ended up down a route where they actually got owned by a company, be it a Amazon or a Google, for example. And I think that day eventually will come in football as well. Jeff Holt saying, rest in peace to Norman Hunter. Yeah, sad news that this morning about him. We were speaking about him very recently on the pod when we was talking about Ron Chopper Harris. Norman also had the nickname Chopper along with Liverpool's Tommy Smith. Chopper was a nickname that came about because, let's just say, they didn't muck about in putting tackles in, basically. Norman Hunter was a Leeds legend, unlike Ron Harris, who had spoken about Chelsea. Norman Hunter did play plenty of times for England. He famously, I'm going to use a bad memory here, it was his miscontrol that allowed Poland in to score at Wembley against England in the qualifiers for the 1974 World Cup. And that is the footage of him that I remember most, sadly. It's amazing how mistakes of certain players stay in your memory. But a Leeds legend and a sad loss, he has died from the virus as well, which is shitty. But we've seen some other people. I think Kenny Dalglish is recovering now. So, yeah, touch wood. The message remains the same, guys. Keep safe, etc. FPL Willie back, gents. It was a quick visit. Finish lunch now. Keep safe, everyone. Catch up soon. Thank you, Willie back. Jonathan Nagy confirms, correct. I was there, lol, in reference to asking me the Bolton Spurs score from 0102. Oh, Jeff's back in with trivia. Who are the 4 Spurs players currently listed as on loan? By the way, you were a wonderful quiz competitor last night. Added to the entertainment, immeasurable. Yeah, I brought a bit of personality, Jeff. Who are the 4 Spurs players currently listed as on loan? Is this real life, Jeff? Or is this in the game? Or do let me know and I'll come back onto that one. Nick Griffith, what's the best away day going in the country for you? A lot of people love Craven Cottage due to location, pub spots, old ground. Would be good to hear your favourite ones. I'm not a fan of Craven Cottage because the view's terrible if you get a seat down the front, or I say seat, a standing spot. Not a massive fan of it. It's good crack in the pub by Tube Station now. I know what you're saying there. I think mine's Villa. I've enjoyed the odd trip to Villa because you really do get a designated pub not too far from the ground, and that Villa's a good one. Transport wise, quite easy up to Birmingham and then move on to, I think it's Whitton, isn't it? I think for Villa Park. Good fun, Villa. I like a lot of ones around the Midlands. There's not any I've been to recently. I've gone and I thought, can't be bothered with that. I just go if I want to go. So yeah, I think Villa is the one I would say. The London ones, I guess for me, it's a little different, Nick. Like the London ones are more an in and out. For me, I can understand if you're coming from outside London to Fulham away, where you probably make more of a day of it around the Thames and all that. It's not a big deal for me. I tend to, if I've been to Fulham, it's been in and out. Chelsea's in and out. Arsenal, West Ham, in and out. So there's no fault to stay around the areas or whatnot. Jeff Holt saying, even Riverside less. Yes, I did not swear on the Wildcats pod last night. Tim Shannon, do you think that Spurs should jump at Amazon naming rights? Would you prefer the Amazon Lane or White Hart Nike? It wouldn't matter what they called it, Tim. I would never call it anything. Shay Hogan, I see he's putting Amazon Arena as well. I would never put anything in my mind other than White Hart Lane and call it whatever they want. Excuse me. So Arsenal were very quick to be calling it the Emirates. A lot of the people I knew around me, and people won't even know this, were calling it Ashburton Grove because that's where the stadium got built, was on Ashburton Grove. But that just got ditched. People, oh yeah, it's the Emirates, cool. Well, what are they going to call it if they change the stadium naming rights for it in 15, 20 years? And it could be they have a partnership with Emirates till we all die, right? I have no idea. But the Emirates are just stuck as the name as soon as they got in there. It's like people have instantly associated Manchester City as the Etihad now. And I think Spurs fans are very much of the opinion, you can call it whatever the fuck you like. We're going to call it White Hart Lane and make sure that it stays that way. I think the fact that for so long it's been named as officially the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium has helped in terms of people's first impressions. So it wasn't like we were moving into the Amazon Bowl or whatever. And call it whatever they like. I don't care. It'd just be White Hart Lane to me. FPL Badger, what was Spurs' score at the Lane? 0405. I know it was 0-0, mate. And a brilliant tackle from my great friend, the incredible Ledley King, on Darren Huckabee, if I remember correctly, denied Norwich victory. I think Norwich had just come up with good attack inside for a little while. Not mean to demean you there, Mark, you know what I'm saying? Yes, it was 0-0. I'm certain of that. I think you rocked up in green, and Ledley King made an amazing tackle on Darren Huckabee. And I think we won 2-0 at your place over Christmas time. Robbie Keane and Michael Brown scored. FPL Drew, the Athletic FPL Twitter, better player, Pogba or Souness? Christ, it's a difficult one, that, Drew, because I didn't see Souness play live in his pomp. I've obviously seen lots of Souness. And different players. Like Souness had different characteristics to Pogba. I think Pogba should be a 10. I think he should have free reign to do whatever he likes. And at which point, they don't really become comparable footballers. Technical quality, Pogba all day, every day. But Souness was a very different type of footballer. It's a very difficult comparison. I was talking yesterday when we was doing the Ajax podcast, and I was talking about comparisons between Davids and Kante. I was basically saying that Edgar Davids, if you put N'Golo Kante on drugs and made him like an animal, like he hated everyone, that's what Edgar Davids was. It's comparable. And forgive me, somebody messaged me, and I know they'll probably listen to this later, so apologies, messaged me and saying, comparing about Makelele and Davids. I said, you can't really compare them. Makelele made an anchor role midfield position basically his own. People called it the Makelele position. Davids and Kante were energetic midfield players. This is also a very difficult comparison. If you're asking me to pin one, I would have to say Pogba, because I've seen more of him as a footballer. I thought it was laughable when Souness said, put your medals on the table. And I would have loved Pogba just to post a little Instagram video with like just plopping the World Cup on the table. Like, there you go, fuck off. So Pogba has won things, right? Won plenty of titles at Juventus and that. There is football and life outside the Premier League. Avi, hi James. Hindsight here. Thoughts on Suji's performance in Euro 96 quiz? He did really well, didn't he? He must have properly researched to be going from a position where he was getting like 1s and 2s to suddenly getting more than half, without spoiling it for those too much who haven't listened to it. Then, yeah, it was really, really good. I think it was an era that for him was quite easy as well, in terms of he remembered it. He would have been, sort of 14, 15 or so, really into his football at the time and that then. So, yeah, he did really well. I was surprised. I mean, it's more fun when he car crashes it and fucks it up, personally. But yeah, he did really well. I can tell you, while we're on that, content-wise, I haven't quite decided on people's poll yet. Wednesday's quiz will be on Premier League hat-tricks, and the Thursday throwback to keep in line with, I think, what's going to become a bit of a Newcastle theme during the week. We're going to be looking at the Keegan years on the Thursday throwback next week. Jeffo, finally today, what is the Spurs motto in English and or Latin? Come on, man, it's not really a question, is it? To dare is to do, or dare es facere. I probably pronounced that wrong, but there you go. To dare is to do is the motto of Spurs, which essentially means try it and do it. It's a play before night. Long had something. ironically. Hippox07 Legendary, what is your worst away day story in regards to how you were treated? I know Spain and Italy clubs go pretty crazy. Barcelona all day long last year. Really bad. Really, really bad. I was there in the UEFA Cup and there was trouble in Dortmund as well, but I didn't have any issues. Genuinely, I did, you know, it was big queues to get in the ground, but I didn't have any of the issues that a lot of other people had getting into the ground that day. Barcelona was disgraceful. It was really, really bad. You know, my mum doesn't really go away from home, but she came with us for this one. Oh, people pointing fucking machine guns in people's faces and that in alleyways. That's how Spurs fans were treated. But before we even got there, so weird. They've got massive issues in Catalonia. It completely ruined the experience for me. You had to walk all the way around the world and down an alleyway to basically get in the place. Then you get searched. So I can do with all the searching and shit. I understand all that. You get marched over a bridge. They put you all the way around the world. It did similar in Munich, although it wasn't a problem. It just took some time. They sent you all the way around the world in Munich. And then, unlike in Barcelona, where you got put straight into the ground, going up and around the place, in Munich, once you went through all the security, you could walk all the way around the stadium and mix with them. It was so easy to go into the home end if anybody had wanted to. It was basically completely unmanned. Really, really strange. But to get into the stadium itself, it was like that at Atletico for the final as well. But in terms of getting into the ground, you could still only really get into your place in the ground in terms of your tickets, etc. Really strange. Barcelona, it was such a disappointing experience. So, so bad. Like, if Spurs played there again next year, I wouldn't go. Fuck that. Expensive ticket, shit price. I don't mind the view in the gods, but petition, I'm ducking and diving all game long to try and get away from this petition that's in my eye line of the goal at the other end. Fucking crap. There's a lot said about English support, etc., but we don't treat their supporters when they come here the way we treat theirs. They treat us rather. Come over here and it's like, yeah, crack on. You just get treated like any other English fan, etc. There's no special treatment, etc. inside the stadium. Everywhere you go in Europe, you have to put up with netting and petitioning and stuff like that. It's crap. I don't know why it's still acceptable in 2020. And I'd like to see English clubs make more of that, actually. It needs sorting out. English fans generally are doing all right now on the continent. Not angels, don't get me wrong, but no worse than anybody else. Heavy Finger 7, being in the home crowd at Spurs, can you tell us the top 3 favourite current players and also 3 players fans complain most about? Oh my gosh. Right, I need to break that down in some way. Can you tell us the top 3 fan favourite current players would be Kane, Son. There's not many of them loved at the moment. I don't know, that's possibly the Celso. Certainly Kane and Son, I guess now would be probably the top 2 as an overall majority. My FBL Badger, yeah, saying very good, mate. Got it spot on the Spurs Norwich stuff. FBL Judy, Athletic FBL Twitter, hard. That answer cracked me out. Agree. Very difficult comparison. Absurd argument from Sooners are in medals, yeah. Froda Halverson is in from Norge. Greetings all. Hello, mate. Hip Hop Legendary saying, oh, Keegan Newcastle, that'd be a great pod. Yeah, that'll be Thursday, guys. For those who are liking the throwback ones or have missed them, we did Leeds 91-92. We did Norwich, their trip into Europe and nearly win the league 92-93. Yesterday we did Ajax. Did we miss one? Oh, sorry, we did England's Graham Taylor failure to get to USA 94. And yesterday we did a podcast on Ajax Champions League winners from 95, which quite a bit of work went into that one, actually. So I hope that one's got well appreciated. Frodo says, has Ole Gunnar Solskjaer record scoring off the bench been beaten? Maybe. Kanu or Defoe beat that, maybe. I'm not sure. If not, he might well have it. I'm not sure, Frodo, actually. Not sure. Nick Griffith, the only problem with Villa is the designated pub we were in charged us 3 years running to enter. Piss take that. Yeah, but shit, have some fun. Everything's a piss take, Nick. Was the beer cheap in Fulham? I bet it wasn't. Yeah, I went to Villa last game of the season in Championship and had to pay £5 to get in the Witten Arms. Yeah, it is the Witten Arms is the pub that I'm speaking of. Yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? at least you're in there and you're all together. They host it. Fuck it. They charge. If we hate it that much, don't pay it, right? Nick says, cracking ground, though. One of my favourites for sure. Enjoyed Sunderland, Newcastle when I went. Newcastle was a great town. I don't know what you've written there, Nick, but if you're talking about that guy, I'm not saying it out loud. Fuck it. Jonathan Nate, where did you used to sit at White Lane? So my first year was 1990-91, was very similar to where I sit now. There was something almost like coming home in terms of choosing that seat. So I basically sit in line with the penalty area at the front of the upper tier on the east stand. And that's where I originally spent my first season. And then it was cheaper to move, the three of us, me, mum and dad, to move behind the goal of the Paxton. We stayed there all through the rebuilding, etc., except for 1 year we had to relocate to the Park Lane, the other end upper tier, and then went back. And we always went on the Paxton for two main reasons. One, cheaper. Yes, particularly as I got older, I would have wanted to be with the Nutters on the Park Lane. But I'm a short ass, right? And I do like a perspective of the game, etc., as most of you will know. So I had a brilliant seat in the Paxton Upper, some good times. Now I sit East Upper. If you ever see it on the telly, the block next to me there's a disabled section. So there's only like 2 rows and then a disabled section. And basically in line of the disabled section, so as you look, would be on the left of that, row 6. Tashi says Newcastle will be the next city. They may well be, but I think it will take a lot longer. Christian Mervang, my birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday, Christian. As a fellow Spurs fan, how are you going to celebrate it? Also, who might we lose this summer and who should we be glad we get rid of? Transfer-wise, Christian, I couldn't possibly tell you. What am I going to do to celebrate the day tomorrow? Spurs are at home Southampton. I'll be doing Champman FPL live from 2:30 to 5 o'clock. Touchwood with graphics as well. And we'll have some fun. Hopefully Spurs beat Southampton at home. But have a great birthday, Christian. In terms of who do we want to go on that? It's all speculation. No idea. I'm more interested in just getting a rebuilding in the squad and investing in some youth and stuff. We need a central midfielder. If Ndombele can't be the player we hope he'll be, and we need some fullbacks desperately. That's all we need as a starting point to try and look like a half-decent team again. Until we get those 3 things, we're not going to look like a half-decent team again, no matter who's managing, I'm afraid. Hipok07 Leisure, I love the inclusion of these throwback years. Think it's been nice remembering old stories. Do you think it would be staying when football actually comes back? I doubt it, because I think there will be so much demand for present. But when football comes back and then we get into a new football season, Planet FPL will look different again going forwards. So I wouldn't rule out the prospects of something like a throwback as perhaps specials, for example. Joe Finney-Badder, yesterday was 4 years today that Aurelio Gomez saved 2 Saido Berahino penalties against West Brom. What went so wrong for him at Spurs when he's been so good for us at Watford and earlier at PSV? Joe, you sure it wasn't 2 Darren Bent penalties against Sunderland? Oh, no, that's unfit for Spurs. Yes, it was 4 years ago. I saved 2 penalties for Watford. Gotcha. We basically bought him. We played PSV in the last 16 of the UEFA Cup and then bought him that summer. He was incredible against a save he made from Mal Bronk in the last minute of extra time. No idea. And obviously he saved penalties as well. He was always good at penalties. He just lapses of concentration. I think at first he came over and he really struggled with the physical. Despite being quite a physical guy himself, he really struggled with that side of the game. And once he showed signs he was in pain, people used to try and rough him up. There's the famous one. I remember watching a game we lost at Stoke in the pub and he's screaming. And the whole pub's in fits of giggles laughing at him. Like, what's this guy doing? He's just screaming. I think he played a lot of games for Spurs injured as well in that first year or so out of a desperation and necessity, because it let Paul Robinson go to Blackburn and that as well. But yeah, I liked Aurelio. He had some good days. He had some good days. I'd put him probably 3rd best Spurs goalkeeper I've seen, actually, probably behind Friedel and Lloris. Because although he had rickets, he could have some really good days as well. He was a good shot stopper generally. So yeah, he wasn't as bad as most people remember, and he had some good times. You know, he was part of that team that got to the Champions League quarterfinals and that. So yeah, love Torreira. We had a good song for him as well. Waz FPL, hey mate, I was the guy who ruined the Solana goal in game week 5. I'm sorry about that. It was my first win. I didn't realise now I have a chat name as well. That's okay, Waz. What we hope to do with the graphics tomorrow to help people like you as well is, or other people coming for the first time, I'm going to speak to Chris, FPL captain, later today. And I'm hoping to put some sort of graphic in the stream so people can see as soon as they come in that essentially the feed is on a delay. So hopefully that will help as well. And that message will stay on screen for the whole time to sort of, you know, please bear in mind your chat people as well. This stream's on a 30-second delay, something like that. Christian said, thanks, no problems. Have a good birthday, mate. Tashi says, will you be happy with Kane leaving with hefty cash to splash and recruiting new talents? Nah, I've discussed this. We discussed this at length on Monday's podcast. Like, there isn't an amount of money. I think 200 million, which nobody's going to pay at the moment, even Newcastle United, no matter what money they've got, he ain't going to go to Newcastle. It'd have to be that sort of money for Spurs to consider it. I really believe that. What are you going to spend 150 million on these days? What does that get you? Like Philippe Coutinho or Ousmane Dembele or something? What's the point? No. So Spurs will only sell Kane when Kane says, I want to go. I'm certain of that. Heavy Finger 7, what would you call a fair price you'd pay for an Amazon subscription if they'd have all the games in the Premier League season? I'm not best placed to answer this because it's something we've covered before, and I've said I will pay whatever. So I would happily pay £30 to watch the Spurs away game if that's what it cost. If that's what the cost is, same price as a match ticket, I have no problem with that. So if I had to pay that 19 times over, what's that, 570 quid? There you go. That's what I paid for it. Break that down over 12 months. What's that, about 45 quid a month or something? It's not as bad as it sounds. I would pay a lot more than others. I think reasonable to all the games. Put it this way, it'd be cheaper than what we're paying now. I'm pretty confident of that. So it'll be what it'll be. Angus McPhail, have you seen the plans this week from Real to significantly renovate, remodel the Bernabeu? Strange of the contrast of a team not moving but losing some of the tradition of this day. Do you know what, Angus? We did a podcast on what's happening in Spain on Tuesday, and I did mean to talk about it, and I completely forgot because I just found it interesting that Real were releasing advanced plans of what they intend to do with the roof there in amongst all the crisis. Like it's Real Madrid doing a Real Madrid thing going, by the way, guys, we know the country's still in crisis, but we got a shitload of money. And they have. They're being like Man United, getting linked with big money signings, etc. This is where I can deal with tradition going a little bit, Angus, because it's already for me my favourite stadium, the Bernabeu, and this will make it better, in my opinion. You know, the new camp, for all the majesty of how it looks to you on the TV, etc., is a rickety old piece of shit, and it needs completely modernising. I'm telling you, when Mora scored, the ground shook. It was only 5,000 of us, but I was like 4 rows from the back of the upper tier with no roof, and it felt like the floor was moving. Like it's not cool. So Madrid a little less because it doesn't really need the renovation, but they're trying to move into modern times, etc. Barcelona needs major upgrading, and they're going to be doing that as well. And I think they're going to take the capacity up as well. Barcelona is much needed. As much as I hate Angus and would have rather stayed at the old White Hart Lane, unfortunately, we've got to get into the modern world, modern facilities, etc. Excuse me. Jonathan Nagy said, FPL Badger got mugged off in the Whittam Arms. I only paid £2 this season. Well done, John. Avi, any news on the meeting was due today with FA regarding setting cut-off date for this season? I'm not seeing anything, Abby, unless something's been announced while I'm doing this stream. But I wouldn't expect any information today. Wes says, sounds good. Don't know what to. Broder says, thoughts on Ryan Sessegnon goodbye. Yeah, it seems like everybody's 19 years of age. I think, remember Bale at that age didn't look anything particularly amazing, if we're honest. And Bale had similar, I'm not comparing the two players, But Bell had similar issues in terms of, was he going to be a wide left? Was he going to be a left back? I remember, I'm sure I've spoken about this on the stream before, coming out of Stoke, and Bale scored twice. Remember when he hit that volley like up about here into the top corner? I came out of Stoke. Me and Dad got back in the car, and the first thing we heard on the radio was Harry Redknapp talking about how Gareth Bale was going to end up being one of the left backs and best left backs in the world. And I think you really need to get over this, mate. This guy is beginning to show he's going to be a world-class winger, and then a couple of months later he did in the Milan, whatever, etc. Yes, needs some time. It's very difficult when you get young players who get signed for 20 odd million at 19 years of age. There's a lot of pressure on that. He's not been helped by Ben Davies's injuries and Danny Rose's alarming regression as a footballer, in my opinion, I'm afraid. By the way, shout out Danny Rose, doing some amazing charitable stuff at the moment. Still love Danny. But Sessegnon could have really done with training with these guys at their peak a lot more. So that's not helped. He's ended up playing left back, left wing back, left midfield on occasion. Yes, I think he'll be a good player. He strikes me as a bit timid sometimes, like doesn't believe in himself. I've seen him play for Fulham and England's kids teams where he goes at people. And I think he just needs to get a bit of bravery in there for him to feel like he belongs. I don't think he feels like he belongs yet. What certainly comes off with him is that in terms of his personality, his character, he seems very level-headed, feels like he's in the right place. He wants to be coached properly, etc. So, yeah, I think there'll be good things for Ryan Sessegnon. I don't quite know which way his career path will turn out in terms of whether it's left wing back or left back. I suggest he'll be left back in the longer term. Now I've said that on camera. I might look stupid when he's the best winger in the world in 5 years. I don't think he has Bell's technical qualities. I think in the modern era he'd be very suited to being a left back. And actually, I hope that when Spurs restart playing football, that we're playing a back four and he's given a run at left back. That's what I would like to see. Hip Hop 07 Legendary. Honestly, do not think I can go back to watching champ updates on Twitter. Having you do the games live adds so much fun to it. I'm loving it as well, mate. It's good fun. It's good gum. Anand says, "What's up, guys? Good morning from Kentucky." Good morning, Anand. Managed to Reds in the chat. Hello, mate. Anand says, "Vodka sanitizes the inside." Yeah, but it's morning where you are, pal. Take it easy. Heavy Finger 7. No CAS appeal decision incoming in time. Safe to say, City UEFA cases bust for 2020-21 season, and their ban should begin only for 21-22. Question: it could well be bust. Certainly, that appeal is not going to happen before football restarts. So, I don't know where it leaves us. One of the things I've suggested is England look after themselves first and put the middle finger up to UEFA next year and just get their own calendar sorted first and play no UEFA football. I think that's one suggestion. Unfortunately, there's way too much money involved for that sort of thing to be happening. Tashi says, "First time in my life I was doing great in FPL with overall #1 in my private league with some cash to win. Then pandemic happens. Shit, I hate Liverpool." Well, Tashi, I don't know what to say to that. Avi says, "Your thoughts on Sancho to United likely to happen? Would it be a success? How close would United be to challenging for the title?" To answer all of those questions, do I think it will happen? Yes. Would it be a success? Yes. How close would United be to challenging for the title? Miles off. But moving in the right direction. And I think we will finish on this one from Anand, who missed the penalty in the first half of Italy versus West Germany in the 1982 World Cup final. The answer is, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But I do know who got the best goal celebration ever in that final. Come on, I wasn't born. I don't remember everything. But thank you for the question, Anand. Much appreciated. Right, guys, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining in. That's kept us busy for 50 minutes or so. That's good fun. So you want to catch up on the content from this week? There's loads. Main podcast on Monday. Tuesday was People's Poll. We looked at the current situation in Spain. Wednesday, I did a quiz on Euro 96, which was really fun. Yesterday, we did our throwback on Ajax. As I said, next week, quizzes on Wednesday will be Premier League hat-tricks. Thursday will be a throwback to the Keegan years. On Monday's main podcast, we will talk about Newcastle and the takeover in some detail as well. I'll put the People's Poll out for Tuesday's podcast are out on Sunday. Chapman FPL Game Week 6 live tomorrow, 2:30 to 5 p.m. on this channel. Hopefully see many of you back here for that. Graphics should be included, etc. Give my friend the FPL Captain with a K a follow, guys. Done some amazing work on that. Also, if you're not sick of my face already, you can catch up on the first of a two-parter with FPL Family, where we looked back with Lee and Sam on semi-finals in the first part they released last Saturday. On Saturday night, they will also be releasing part 2, where we speak a lot about me in Amsterdam, Liverpool's victory over Barcelona, and also the final. So first part's out, second part on Saturday. On Tuesday, I was guest for the Wolfpacks quiz. Had some great fun on that. Last night I was on the FPL Wildcats live YouTube stream as well. So I'm about, guys. But thank you very much. All they're saying thank you, etc. in the chat. Much appreciated. I will say ciao for now. Have a good weekend, everyone. Hopefully see many of you tomorrow. Cue music, man, sharp.